at it again, and there's been a clip going around from the Dr. Phil show. Well, I happened to find the full video of the entire situation, so that's what we're going to be checking out today, and it's going to be pretty interesting, to say the least. I saw a clip of it on Instagram, I believe it was, and I was just like, wow, this is just insane. So that's what we're going to be checking out today. Make sure you guys hit that like button. All right. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button as well and join the family. All right. And with that being said, let's dive in.
Today on an all-new Dr. Phil, cultural appropriation.
I got called all sorts of names for wearing the dress.
You actually got death threats. You were called out for appropriating an anime character.
I was told that I was black and not Japanese.
I think imitation is a form of flattery.
If somebody wears their hair like you're wearing it, you put that on the same level as racism.
Same level as white supremacy.
I want you to take a look at these pictures for me. Anything jump out at you?
Yes. They're in
I don't know who all these people are. I'm assuming they're all celebrities. Obviously, you got Kim. You got JB. Madonna, I believe that is. Is this lady a model? I don't know. Y'all let me know in the comment section. I'm probably stupid for not knowing who this guy is. I don't know who that is either, down there at the end.
costumes.
Right? They're in costumes. These are all celebrities who have been called out, criticized, and condemned for cultural appropriation. Has anyone here ever called someone out for cultural appropriation? You too? You have? You have?
Yep.
Has anybody here ever thought twice about wearing something or doing something, even cooking something, out of fear of being accused of appropriation?
No.
You have?
That's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
what was it?
My daughter had braids and she wanted me to get braids that were just like hers.
Why her but not you?
She's half black and half white,
Okay.
and so I just think that some things should stick with those cultures.
Well, no matter whether you believe
Y'all hearing this ridiculousness? Some things should stick with some cultures. So some of the food that we all eat, I'm sure that black guy eats. Do you think it only came from black people? Because, I mean, if you eat another culture's food or dish that they typically eat or made famous, that's cultural appropriation, right?
it's harmful or you think people should just be allowed to do what they want, there is no doubt this is a hot button topic that people are passionate about. Dr. Neil Lester,
Not me.
professor of English at Arizona State University, right?
I am, yes.
And you've published,
Professor of English at Arizona State.
lectured, and taught extensively the area of African American studies. What do you think about appropriation? Do you think this is a real thing, something that people need to be cognizant of? And if so, why?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, because if we in fact are trying to look at the humanity of other people, and we are trying to live in a place where we are trying to be respectful and mindful of folks, then we need to be aware of things that are important to other cultures that don't necessarily look like us or share the same values. So it is a thing, and people need to be aware of.
Can anybody appropriate?
Anybody can appropriate, yes.
Not just white people.
Absolutely. Appropriation is intersectional. So old people can appropriate youth culture can appropriate old folks. People who are not incarcerated can impersonate prisoners or those who are incarcerated. Men appropriate women's attire for the sake of funny and mocking. So absolutely anybody can do it, and everybody on some level may have flirted with it.
So basically, we can never dress or eat or have a hairstyle that is anything different than just the way our hair naturally is. Or a good portion of the food we eat, we're gonna have to look at very closely. No more costumes of any sort whatsoever. Goodness gracious. And you know, this is only an issue in a world where we have become privileged. You think some of these third world countries give a rat's tail about what people dress in or about what people eat? No. We have become so privileged that we now complain about what people wear. Yeah. Goodness gracious. People are so sad, man.
Okay, but a lot of the time that people that I've seen are called out for this, it's not that they were making fun or mocking in some way. It was just that they had adopted a fashion or a style or whatever.
I would say that's a performance. So if somebody's culture and somebody's identity becomes a performance, then it's reductive. So if you're reducing, for example, say the civil rights movement to an afro, and you wear that, or you wear dreadlock wigs, you know, that Rastafarians may wear, you do that because it's edgy, because it's cool, but ultimately because it's not you, and you're getting some kind of cultural capital from that by doing it.
And who's hurt by that?
Well, it's not a matter of who's hurt by it, it's who's being disrespected by it.
Well, who's being disrespected by it?
A whole culture of people whose identities are wrapped in whatever you're dressing into and can then take off.
Amala, you don't agree?
I don't. No.
You think worrying about appropriation is a waste of time?
I think not only is
Shout out to Amala. It's a huge waste of time. I believe Amala works for PragerU. I could be wrong, but I believe Amala works for PragerU. Shout out to Amala, though.
somewhat a waste of time, but it's nearly impossible. You just mentioned there are nearly hundreds of ways that one could appropriate somebody else's culture or their livelihood. And to expect any one human being to keep on top of that throughout their entire life, I think, is an unrealistic ask. And I think imitation is a form of flattery. I appreciate my food by eating it. I appreciate the hair that I wear by wearing it, by putting on the clothes that I wear. And every single item around us in this room could probably be attributed to a certain culture. Do we have to constantly worry about what culture we gain things from?
Does intention have anything to do with
Well,
it?
I guess I didn't hear anything about anybody worrying about it. What I hear about when I think about and talk about cultural appropriation is people becoming more aware of it. We could say the same thing about racism, sexism, homophobia. Just because you can't solve it and don't see it at every corner doesn't mean we shouldn't be aware of it and trying to address it.
Wow, do you really put those on the same level?
I absolutely do.
Racism and sexism, you put it on the same level as cultural appropriation?
That's exactly.
This is a professor, mind you. He's teaching students at a university.
So if somebody
Carry
wears
on.
their hair like you're wearing it, you put that on the same level as racism.
Absolutely. I put that on the same level as white supremacy because white supremacy is intersectional. Read Audre Lorde. And here's what I'm saying. That's why I started by saying this is about humanity or the lack of humanity. When we're putting on someone else's culture, that is somebody else's identity. So when you're talking about being worried about stuff, I'm talking about this in the context of power and history.
You're Brittany, right? Yes. Do you think black people appropriate?
I think it's possible for Black people to appropriate a different culture just because Black culture is the only culture that exists, and every culture has their own boundaries or things that they find offensive and things they want other cultures to respect.
How many of y'all agree with the doctor here that cultural appropriation is on the same level as racism or sexism? How many of you agree that it's serious like that?
Don't raise your stupid...
How many of you say, no, I think that's overblown? Okay, most of you think that's overblown. Is it they just don't get it?
Well, when we talk about systemic racism, which many of us started talking about after George Floyd's murder, we started seeing the ways in which white supremacy is embedded in everything. And cultural appropriation is about that. It's not only about that, but it is about that. People don't walk into a space and are just raced. You are race and. You're not just raced. So there's race and gender, there's race and religion, there's race and sexuality, there's race and body type. So all of that becomes embedded when we talk about systemic racism. And that's what's missing from conversations about cultural appropriation. We only want to focus on race, but not one person in this room is just raced. That's what I challenge. And that's why age becomes part of this. That's why gender becomes part of this. Dressing up as women and thinking that's funny, that's cultural appropriation. That's mocking women, and we make lots of money doing that.
Okay, what do you guys think?
Did y'all hear what he said? He said dressing up as a woman. So what are you saying, sir? Did y'all catch that? Did y'all catch that? Hey, he might be getting canceled here soon. Basically, if you're not a woman, you shouldn't be dressing up as a woman. Okay? So, yeah.
That's mocking women, and we make lots of money doing that.
Okay, what do you guys think? Yes, ma'am.
In a multicultural society, I don't think that the boundaries between cultures are that rigid. I think they're somewhat fluid. And so, you know, at the end of the day, we're talking about hairstyles. We're talking about clothing. There's so many bigger fish to fry. You know, we have this grievance culture. Everybody has a grievance about something. And, you know, I just think that it's really not that big of an issue.
Facts.
How many of you agree with that? Okay. Most of you do? Yes, sir.
It seems to be an American issue. My wife recently, my beautiful wife, who knows pretty much everything.
Good catch on that.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. She
Good
recently
catch.
wanted to buy a kimono because she thought they were beautiful. So she checked in with a Japanese friend of hers and, you know, to make sure that she wasn't participating in cultural appropriation. And her Japanese friend said that it would be celebrating her culture.
The fact that we can share styles and clothing and food is a very beautiful thing to be celebrated.
I just want to touch on what he just said because we've checked out multiple videos from either PragerU or Campus Reform where that was being displayed. The guy wore, I think there was a Mexican one and a Chinese one. And both times he went and he actually talked to actual Mexicans and he went and actually talked to, you know, Chinese folks or whatever you call it. And both times they all said that they loved his traditional outfit. They loved it. But when he was on the college campus, everybody was angry. And it's just like, why are you angry for people who aren't even angry? Have you guys talked to these folks? And the answer is no. Oftentimes, they don't even talk to these actual people that are supposed to be offended or that they're appropriating. They just get mad for, I don't know what reason at all. I guess because they've been taught to get angry about that kind of stuff. And it's like, you're not even from that culture, so why are you angry? Because he already went and talked to those folks. They aren't angry at all. They're happy. They love it. It's just absolutely crazy.
But sharing and then having somebody else get credit for it. See, that's what the issue is. The issue is I've done my homework and you're going to copy it and the teacher's going to praise you for doing the homework. That's what cultural appropriation is.
No, that's...
Okay, well, Will Witt is a former Prager University personality and current editor-in-chief
Yes, sir.
of the Florida
Matter of fact, I think it
Standard.
was him.
He joined us virtually.
Yep. That's the guy that I was just talking about.
Will, what prompted you to make that video?
Well, really, I made that video to prove anti-white ivory tower professors like the one in your studio wrong. I mean, this video and the others that I've made like it with Native Americans, with Mexicans, with the Chinese you just watched are irrefutable evidence that people like that professor are exactly wrong on cultural appropriation. And if we want to go back and we want to talk about the hairstyles and things, just bringing this up, I mean, I've seen people get offended by braids and say, oh, you know, braids are a black people thing and white people can't wear braids. It's called a Dutch braid. It was from back in Nordic times, old Nordic times, with white people, with Vikings, would wear braids, yet people want to come and claim that it's some part of their culture now. No, you can't claim that something is just a part of your culture either. It's for people to share and celebrate and use so you can actually have a society that is cohesive and works
Oh, she's culturally appropriating.
together as a melting pot, not all these different groups that can't work together because everyone's so offended. The only people who are actually offended by cultural appropriation don't really have anything else of meaning going on in their lives, it seems.
Yeah.
Well, that's rich.
You say people who...
What do you say?
Yeah.
Well, that's rich.
You say people who get
That's
offended by
rich.
cultural appropriation are people mostly not from that culture. Has that been your experience, whatever the culture was?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, one of the most important videos that I ever did with PragerU is when I went to the Navajo Indian Reservation in Window Rock, Arizona. And all of these Navajos that I talked to didn't want other people to get offended for them on their behalf. They wanted to feel responsible for their own culture.
I need to check that video out. I don't think we checked that one out. Well, coming tomorrow. All right. Stay tuned. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely
They
right.
didn't want someone coming in, for lack of a better word, white knighting them and saying, hey, we need to come here and save you. You know, all these people wearing headdresses and things or a feather in their hair, we need to come and save you. They didn't want that. They wanted people to come and say Geronimo. They wanted planes named the Apache helicopter. They wanted the Washington Redskins as their sports team to celebrate their culture. They didn't want other people getting offended on their behalf. It's a thing created by elitist white people who don't really ever talk to these people in these cultures.
All right, well, next, can dressing up as your favorite cartoon or any kind of...
These folks never talk to the true source. Never. And it's interesting that he said braids came from, I think he said Vikings. It's like, wow. Because I've seen some people get real offended over Kim Kardashian wearing braids. Oh, you're not black. Well, little do you know.
Character cause offense. Well, for some, it does. My next guest knows all about that, and we'll talk to her after the break. Well, so today we've been discussing cultural appropriation, whether it's harmful and whether it's gone too far. And I just wonder if we've gotten too sensitive. And I worry also about what the reaction is whenever somebody calls somebody out. And look, every situation is different. Irish people don't have a problem. I'm of Irish descent. Don't have a problem when non-Irish people celebrate St. Patrick's Day. But then black people say, well, you've not been oppressed. So you don't have the same sensitivities that someone else might have.
Goodness
But
gracious.
yeah, I wrote down things that when I was researching this, Hispanics were complaining about hoop earrings. Hawaiians were really complaining when surfing was added to the Olympics because...
Man, she's appropriating double time. She got the hoop earrings and she got the braids. Uh-oh. What else going on? Hold on. We gonna find out something else here soon. Watch.
They were
Guaranteed.
taking surfing from the Hawaiian population. And I couldn't find who was the first person to surf, whether it was the Hawaiian Islands or somewhere else. I couldn't find the beginning of that. My biggest problem that I have with it is everywhere I could find this called out on social media was public shaming and attacking. I could find very few times where somebody would send a message and say, hey, just wanted to mention that you might want to think about the fact that this comes from somewhere and you might want to share some appreciation or acknowledgement. It was vicious and hurtful and shaming. And I hate to see that because we seem to have this call out cancel culture and attack culture. And I really wonder, I've said before, we say a lot of things on a keyboard. I wonder if we would say that to somebody if we were in the elevator with them. I think
Nope.
you were really attacked and felt bad for your prom dress and you for your anime. And I just wonder if people took even 30 seconds to know either one of you, if they would feel that way and say that to you.
No, they wouldn't. those types of conversations typically, on average, now of course you have outliers, on average, don't happen in the real world. They only happen on social media. That's a fact. That is a fact. I mean, because I guess we appropriate every day, all right? How many people do you see walking around? Hey, you're appropriating. You only say that on social media. Just saying. I'm just saying. Carry on.
And I just hope in this country we can slow down enough to try and first understand and second be understood. That would be a good place to start. It's just my thoughts. I want to thank all of my guests for being here today for what I feel was an important discussion. I really want to.
All right, that's enough of that. So let's bust that down just a little bit. I know this video is kind of long here, but so on one hand, all right, just looking at it from an understanding perspective, I could understand if people were getting angry or offended because someone was intentionally, continuously, or a group of folks were mocking, something that typically came from another culture, right? They were just kind of making fun of it. But on that same hand, if people are just wearing hairstyles or eating a certain type of food or, for a certain, event, or dressing up as, in some traditional attire or whatever the case is, I don't see any iota of an issue with that. The only time, like I said, I may even slightly have an issue is when a group of folks or a person is intentionally, continuously mocking something. Like, for example, someone wears an Indian attire and makes fun of, Indian folks, continuously. Even with that being said, freedom of speech, baby, right? Now, I don't consider that the right thing to do. You shouldn't be out here just intentionally making fun of folks. Like, come on, like, get a life. You know what I mean? Like, you got a lot better things to do than to be out here just making fun of Native Americans for whatever reason, wearing their traditional attire. But how many people are out here doing stuff like that? Like, no one? I'm sure there's somebody out here doing it, but 2 people out of 300 million people? Come on, do we really have a problem here? No. I think, once again, this problem is birthed from a place of privilege and the easy times that we have been living in. That's the way that I see it. But y'all let me know how y'all feel about all of this in the comment section below. Like, share, comment, and of course, hit that subscribe button before you go. Peace and love. I'm out.